Good day, good afternoon, everyone, or good evening. Thank you for joining this episode of the ManagementOS Podcast brought to you by the team at CEO Mastermind. As you all know, we always have conversations here for founders, entrepreneurs, and executives, all the way from seven figures to sort of the nine figures, and our guests have been in those ranges as well. Today, super excited to talk with a new friend of mine, Vance Morris. Incredible story. We'll get into it. He spent over a decade at Disney. And since then, he's built a lot of businesses that really run, with minimal day-to-day interaction from him. And these are by design, not by accident. And we always talk about systems, and Vance will talk on that today. And we're super excited. His work is life's work, if you will, really focuses on customer experience, retention, and then how do systems put leaders in a place where they can make trust and loyalty predictable. I think at the end of the day is, your 52 points, the wow, what are the things you can do to wow? And some of them, sometimes it's the simple things that really do the wow. And we lose it as a society and sometimes as leaders. And so for the audience, you're going to want to sit down on this. It's really not a conversation so much per se about hospitality tricks or sort of Disney anecdotes for the sake of storytelling. Vance really delivers the value, what those experiences and how it translates to everything that he's done, and how it really helps elevate the sort of people experience of your customer and ultimately the durability and long-term performance of your business. Vance, welcome to the show.
I appreciate it. Hopefully I'll drop some good nuggets for you and we'll have a little fun at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so the first section, sometimes people think that, loyalty is just this word or just do good work. And so the idea I want to kind of wrap around here is, why do good leaders lose customers? They lose talent, and of course they lose, momentum. What did Disney teach you about consistency versus sort of excellence, if you will?
Sure. So, a lot of times at the CEO level, they think that loyalty is a result and not a design. Okay. At Disney or, any of my companies, loyalty just doesn't magically appear because we have great products. It's engineered through intentional experiences, consistent emotional cues, and follow through that earns trust over time. So, most execs, they'll delegate it to a customer service department, like it's like they just wash their hands from it. It's not. It needs to be a strategy. And one of the things that I think that a lot of leaders do is they obsess over acquisition of either customers or more employees, and they ignore what happens after the sale. So you have billboards, you have campaigns, you have funnels. They're great, and don't get me wrong, we need that. But the real money is made in retention and repeat purchases. So if you were to go to Disney today, right now in the theme parks, 80% of the people that are in the park right now have been there before. It's only 20% new. And to me, that is a great ratio. If it works for Disney, that's what I will try to attain in my businesses. Because they know that once somebody, again, the whole know, like, and trust, once they have that, then there is a lot better chance for repeat and or additional purchases. I mean, Disney's great. I mean, they are masters at extracting money from your wallet and leaving you feel happy about it, and wanting to come back and do it again and again. But all of those experiences are designed. They are systems, and it's those systems that deliver the consistent, excellent experiences that we get when we're down there.
I love what you said about system. One of my favorite authors is Greg McKeown. He wrote the book Essentialism. One of the concepts he has there, and you sort of said it, that I think and it wasn't my question I'm going to ask you. My interpretation, I think you talk about in your work, is hey, just do good work. That's a strategy. To me, that is what Greg McEwen would say by default. What you're suggesting, and I think it's accurate, but I wanted you on here, is this essence of by design, right? So they do this by design. You just literally said it perfectly. And I think that's something that a lot of business leaders forget. And I don't know what percentage of businesses use the NPS metric. It was invented by Bain in the early 2000s. I think it was Bain, but it's the most powerful thing, and it gets to that, right? If you
Yeah,
got
100%.
raving fans, if your
Yep.
NPS is 80 plus, your business is going to be sticky as heck. You're going to get people talking about it positively, and they're going to come back. At the end of the day, um, it's critical. Like you said, I actually didn't know about the 80%. That's actually a beautiful fact. And I think that's something that is definitely worth targeting because it's a lot easier to nurture and deepen a relationship and get a whole brand new one. Do you find when you talk to, your clients that, we do good work is something that's a common theme and just like, well, like how do leaders have
Yeah.
this epiphany when they talk to you and then
Well, maybe 100 years ago, doing good work was enough because there was one barber, one plumber, one lawyer in town, and everybody went to that one guy. So doing good work was enough to get your name out there. These days, all of that is highly commoditized now. I mean, a dentist is a dentist is a dentist. There's only so
Mhm.
many ways to clean teeth. What separates one dentist from another is the experience, the in-office experience. And I've got one of my clients actually is a dentist, and she was taking insurance, and so she only gets X dollars from the insurance companies as reimbursement. She had 8 other dentists in her building, not just in her town, but in her building, and they all did the same thing. They all took insurance, they all cleaned teeth, and that was pretty much it. And she was like, I can't do this. I'm going nuts. Not to mention, I'm not making a lot of money. So we did a lot of brainstorming, and we found out that her favorite movie was Peter Pan, and that she really likes working with children. So we pivoted, and she now became a pediatric dentist, kids only. So when you hit 18, you're gone. Um, and she went private pay, so no longer took insurance. And what she did was she became the pirate dentist. She dressed like Captain Hook. And, all of the little dental assistants were dressed like little Mr. Smees, and they walked around the office saying "arg," and really had
Love
a
that.
over the top experience. I mean, kids wanted to go to the dentist because of the experience that, I mean, that never happens. I don't even like going. Um,
Heck,
the
I'd go to
result
this
of
one.
all this, though, is she was able to become over $150,000 a year more profitable by eliminating 2.5 positions that all they did was insurance billing. Completely got rid of them. And
Yeah.
since she was cash, she could now charge what her services and experience was worth, which when you're dealing with commodity or insurance companies, you can't do that.
Yeah, that's actually a brilliant example, in particular around most, business leaders often struggle, even myself through my career, I've struggled with niching down. Well, if you got a pulse and you can walk and you probably carry a wallet or a purse, I want to sell to you my little widget that I got.
Right.
Um, and that is, cardinal sin number 101 of marketing. And I think what your example is, they created a niche that they really wanted to go down, niche or niche, people say it different
Yep.
ways, and really get into it. And I love that you create an experience because I would venture to say most dentists would say, but everybody's got a mouth, everybody's got teeth, right? That's
Yep.
true, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the best experience, the most durable business, the most profitable business. I think I could imagine the NPS of a dentist like that. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
heck, I don't meet the age criteria, but I'd like to go to that. I mean, that
Well, I
would
mean,
just be fun.
yeah, I mean, I mean, she's got a wait list. So, and she works less now because she now has two docs in the office. She's able to pay them well because she's cash only, and so she's not locked into being able to just rely on insurance billing. And the docs are staying with her because one, it's a great environment. Two, again, she's paying well above market in order to keep them.
Yeah, and this is a beautiful example. I actually love this example. We didn't talk about this when we were initially chatting, but I love this example because it's business case 101, right? It probably
Yeah.
doesn't get better than that. Okay, so let me just figure out. I got a couple of topics. I think I want to kind of go into this kind of concept about systems outperforming heroic leadership. And there's a thing that I go through that I call systems beat talent over time. And Ryan Dice, who's a friend of mine, says, good people get broken by bad systems. And so if you
Hmm.
have a bad system or a bad environment, or you don't have a good business, you don't attract top talent that you can retain to create that experience. Question for you or some thoughts is, how do leaders move from I got to do it all, this sort of hero-driven result where they got to be the quarterback and running back all in one shot, to a more of a system-driven outcome angle?
Right. Well, I mean, first and foremost, they have to realize that whoever is going to take over some of the duties of that CEO is not going to do it as well as that guy. You have to be ready to
Yeah.
accept 85% of what you do. Once you get that through your head, though, that 85% now gives you brain capacity to be able to do and create other experiences and systems. You say systems outlast talent, and they do. Systems, I mean, just think of, I mean, Disney right now. I mean, geez, they've got 85,000 employees in Orlando right now. And I can't tell you how many millions of employees have been there since 1971 in Orlando. Um, those systems have outlasted all those employees. And that's the strength of those systems. The thing that you have to understand as well, though, is Disney and a lot of my clients, we don't rest on our laurels as, okay, we designed a system, boom, we're done. That's it. We actually have a team, customer experience team, that will go and revisit all of those systems periodically and say to ourselves, can we do this any better? Walt Disney had a term for it called plussing. So, can we plus the show? Can we plus
Love
the
that.
experience? And sometimes we can, sometimes we can't, and we'll move on to the next thing. So, really, one realizing you can't, if you want to do it all, go ahead, knock your socks off. You're not going to move the business forward. If you're ready to accept that 85% of what you do, you'll be light years ahead of everybody because you'll be able to be creative and add things to the business.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'm really resonating with what you just said, the word of plussing. That particularly resonates for me. I think one aspect that it's important for leaders to get out by creating a system, creating what I call, well, not what I call, but it's called VSM, value stream mapping, and playbooks on how to run those processes. A light bulb for me just went off, and I've been doing this for quite a while, and I just love what you said because that's what Disney does. They'll have a system, a VSM, whatever, value stream map,
Yep.
whatever you want to call it, growth engine. There's lots of different names for it, but basically a set of blocks that the consumer or your customer or product flows through. It comes from the engineering
Yep.
world. And then you kind of walk through it again and you think with the lens of, hey, we mapped it out now. I love this plussing essence because it's to your point is let's look, well, the way I'm interpreting it is let's look, where can we one up something? Because you
Hmm.
can't do it all in one shot and you don't know how the whole system will react. So my takeaway from that is if you do your value stream map, but like understand that experience, create playbooks and whatnot so you can delegate. That's to your point, because
Yep.
as leaders, as founders, once you start getting, even sometimes a lot of business, several $100,000, you can't do it on your own. You need finance people, marketing people, you're going to need
Yep.
various things, some of them fractional, and eventually until you build an 80,000 person empire, if that's the desire. So I really love that plussing aspect because I always have this idea of minimum effective dose. And so what is the minimum amount of things I need to do to get the outcome that I need? And the outcome that I need is raving fans. So
Right.
minimum effective dose doesn't mean chipping out. It means finding out what are the right areas that I'm now interpreting is this concept of plussing. What are the right areas to plus that will get to that experience? So I think if you can map that stuff out, I'm super excited. I'm like a little kid now. I got like a new word. I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
God, this is exciting.
But
I love
but you hit on it though. The mapping is essential. It's not sexy, it's not overly fun, but it is essential to determining where you can create experiences for your customers and mapping it out each spot where the guest interacts with your company. And sometimes in between points,
it.
there's like a waiting period because you have to do it from the point of view of the customer. So first the customer does this, they make a phone call. Then the customer does this, they visit our office. Then the customer, and you go it with their point of view, you'll realize, depending on your business, that the customer might just be sitting there and waiting. Like at Disney, that's what you do. You wait a
You wait in
lot.
the line.
You
Mhm.
wait in lines for the bus to get on a ride, for food, etc. So what does Disney do? They entertain you while you're in line. So if you're waiting, to get on the Haunted Mansion ride, you're entertained in line by the cast members. You're, the organ in there and the tombstones. Actually, waiting is now part of the experience. So if we relate that, and they named it line entertainment, entertaining you while you're in line, we can translate that to our businesses. Let's take a financial advisor. They have a meeting with initial meeting with somebody, and they say, "Okay, great. Let me dive into your numbers or fix some things, and we can meet again in 2 weeks and discuss a plan." So the the guest or the customer leaves,
Yep.
but he's not doing nothing. He's now waiting. So what can the financial advisor be doing in that 2 week period to entertain that prospect to ensure that they'll show up for the purchase? Can they, FedEx them a copy of their book? Can they deliver a couple of tools maybe through the mail or through email? Can you send them balloons or, a nice little thank you cupcake? These are all little touches that separate the commodities from the experiences. And I guarantee you, if you're a financial advisor, between first and second meeting, if you send them a copy of your book, which hopefully you have, um, you're far and above everybody else because nobody does anything in that 2 week period.
True. And I love that example. And one of the things I always say is like, how do you, how are great companies built? And they're obviously built through strategy, the systems first, but then the strategy and the culture that happen is when nobody's looking, if you will, right? So in these instances, as a leader, we would map this out. We'd identify the consumer journey. We'd empower our team to, well, John Smith is sitting for 3 weeks. They can come up. Doesn't have to be the leader's idea to come up with it
Yeah.
because you've given them the goal of, well, how do I please them? So I really like that because I think that's how you build. Because at the end of the day, with AI coming, sort of just like you talked about earlier, like sort of just knowledge or some services have been commoditized. And now sort of intelligence, if you will, has been commoditized too. So I think now it's the difference is how do we create, like I love what you do at your retreat, is you now create an immersive experience that no tech or computer would remotely replicate, even if I'm in a room that's all virtual reality like. It's just not, it's a different experience, yes, but there's nothing I believe that will replace sort of the human experience side because you just get a natural. They say dogs have like a sixth sense. I think humans sort of have that sixth sense too, in the sense of, well, women definitely have it because my wife has a
Yeah,
has a
no doubt.
gut. I'm like, oh my god, how you pick up on that? But there is a known connection with humans and their gut health and the brain and just kind of really having that sense. And if I commented on someone's post today, my old executive, I won't get into the details, but it was about this essence about experiences and local businesses and the importance of that because the inconvenience of Amazon dropping some binder twine at the end of your driveway versus you going to the local sort of, Home Depot. That's the In a small communities, the Home Depots won't be there. But what is your local home hardware kind of fella? And it's these experiences that are really critical that people coming every day. That's great.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
I'm
No,
gonna
thank you. Go ahead.
go ahead. No, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just expand a little bit on it. And you brought up hardware stores. Actually, one of my clients was a hardware store, and they had a Lowe's right across the street from it. So Lowe's has this giant parking lot. Obviously, their tools are their tools. I mean, a hammer is a hammer. Um, and the local guys only had on-street parking with meters. So they took a page out of, you read Unreasonable Hospitality? Um,
I was gonna ask you to bring up that book. So
yeah,
yes, yeah.
great. So they took a page out of there, and when you come into the hardware store, they have a coffee can full of quarters. And they tell you, go ahead and take 2 or 3 quarters so you can feed the meter on us.
Yeah.
Now, so they know that there's a roadblock to service, a roadblock to sales, and they need to try to overcome it. They can't get rid of the meters, but they can help the guest, and it's just a simple gesture, I mean, it's nothing extravagant, and I think that when you are creating experiences, people have this idea that they have to be expensive and they have to like really blow people's minds like wow. um, there are times and places for that kind of stuff, but I'm talking about the small incremental wows, the little details that a lot of businesses miss. The handwritten thank you note. I mean, you want a
Yeah.
customer to stick around? If you delivered a great experience, there's nothing better than a little handwritten thank you note. Nobody does them anymore. I mean, at all. It's funny, you mentioned LinkedIn. There's a couple of posts on my feed where I've had a meeting with somebody and I'll just jot a little handwritten note to them. They actually take a picture of my handwritten note and put it on LinkedIn because they're like, oh my God, nobody does this anymore.
It's so true. It's the little. It is the little things, and I wanted to dive a little bit on what you said because this whole essence of sales and service, right? There was something that prevented sales, and they created a service to do that. And oftentimes, I learned this from the CEO of Clorox, and he was from Coke or P&G, or I learned it when I was at Beach. I don't remember, but this whole concept of the 3Ds. The 3Ds are what are you doing for it's basically desire, decide, and delight. What are you doing to create desire? What are you doing to create the decision, right? So Procter and Gamble calls it the moment of truth when they're going to decide. Landing page on digital or at the shelf in retail. And then the last piece is what are you doing to delight? And you touched on it a little bit earlier because I want to circle back to it. Most leaders and salespeople and sometimes marketers focus too much on sort of the desire and the delight aspect and not on, sorry, on the decide aspect, not enough on the delight. And so if you over deliver after they've engaged, then that's how you drive up your NPS and they become sort of back to your business. And this is a beautiful example where small little thing. Oh, but my margin's going to compress by 75 cents. Yeah, but they just got an $87 basket that they would have gone to Home Depot, but their kid
Yep.
loves to feed them. I can see this playing out. The kid wants to go there because he or she wants to feed the meter, so
Right.
mom or dad goes to the hardware store. I mean, there's so many ways that this plays up and has a
Yep.
ton of fun. I mean, I'm sure you can have a whole podcast of all the funny things people probably do with this feed the meter thing. Absolutely love it.
Yep.
Absolutely love it. Then I step into the next section around people trust and moment people. And you kind of touched a little bit about, this whole idea that micro decisions that either compound trust or they destroy it. And so like in business, oh, your management expense ratio, 1% versus 2%. It's not that much, it's 1%. Extrapolate that over 35 years, that 1% is actually 50%, right? Because
Yep.
it's a massive, massive difference. And so, what do you think that you see that are small leadership behaviors that quietly do erode trust within themselves, their teams, or even the customers? Some thoughts on that?
Yeah, certainly if you want to erode trust with both your employees and your customers, is to be incongruent with your marketing. or incongruent with the brand that you're trying to portray yourself as. I hosted a mastermind meeting at a pretty high-end resort. And it was $400 or $500 a night, catering and everything wasn't cheap. But everything, and they bill themselves as a luxury resort. That's what they say. But everything they do is not luxury. One of the guys
Yeah.
came down from his room, and I don't have it close to me. Usually I do, but he came down with a plastic cup. Plastic cup. I can get glass at Holiday Inn. Plastic cup, and on the cup it said uh, blank hotels luxury division. There's nothing luxury about plastic. The
No matter how
valets,
hard you try.
yeah, the valet, yeah, I don't care if you put the word on there, it still doesn't make it luxury. The valets don't open the doors for people. The cigarette butts and the thing out on the patio was overflowing the entire time we were there, never got changed. So it wasn't just one thing, but it was a lot of little things that lead up to this. You're not who you say you are. And if you're going to market yourself as one thing, well, your systems and processes and people need to deliver on that. Because once you're incongruent, the guests leave and the employees leave. So you've got to have that congruency.
It's hard to come back. It's really, really hard to come back from those bad experiences, which is what I find. And I wanted to go down that point a little bit with you because it is about the system design, the focus on the outcome. And sometimes, and this is also too an example where there's a great strategy. You've got a great strategy to be this luxury hotel, but your execution is completely um, it completely doesn't line up. For example, in Florida, I've been in Naples. You're in Orlando, right? I think you guys
No, I'm
have.
in Maryland.
Oh yeah, Maryland, that's right. But you were there before. There's a
Yeah.
chain in Florida called BurgerFi,
Oh, yeah.
and I love BurgerFi because it is completely congruent from their positioning in terms of this environmental, sustainable, not a vegan place. It is like a meat. There's a great vegan option. I know I'm not vegan, but there's actually a tasty vegan burger, which is almost rare to find. But everything is about sustainability, environment, taste, quality. So, the burger, the finest meat you can buy. The seats I was on, recycled wood, compostable spoons, like everything was congruent from what they said and what they delivered. And at the end of the day, particularly in QSRs, the food's got to be good. You can have all of that, but if you have a really bad burger, like I'm done. It's nice. This is all nice, but I got to eat. And so they really, in my opinion, we've been to Florida numerous times. I always go to BurgerFi because I'm like, oh, I just
Yep.
love the burger. They even stamp the way they stamp the burger. They
Yep.
stamp the burger a certain way. And I'm like, I just love this because every single touch point, uh,
Right.
even the picnic tables outside, they use I can't remember what material, the unique material that they use. I'm like, man, this is on brand from top to bottom, from the moment I walk in, the moment I walk out, and everything that I put inside my body. It was like, this is, really well done.
Yep.
Strong
Yeah.
strategy, excellent execution.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I've talked, here in Maryland, I also own three home service businesses, and we've positioned them as not luxury, but high end, and we serve affluent people. So we can't just, so one of them is a carpet cleaning business, and I've seen carpet cleaning trucks that go by, and they got mud all over them, and the guy's smoking, and it's just not congruent with cleaning. So I figure, well, we're a cleaning company, we should look good. So, every morning the vans are washed. I forbid smoking. And we actually have an entire system or process for getting into the home. And this is I think it would be a good example of how to take a process and turn it into a show that's going to be memorable that people are going to talk about. So one of the boring and mundane things that we have to do is get into the home. So I've scripted out the entire get in the home process, and it's in the binder, the playbook, so every employee knows what it is. And it starts with us parking in the street. We don't park in the driveway. God forbid I got an oil leak. Now I got something else I got to clean up. The technician gets out in a clean uniform because he carries extra uniforms with him in case he gets dirty. He doesn't smell because I forbid smoking and you're not allowed to wear cologne. There's nothing worse than, somebody walking into your house that smells like the Marlboro man who just took a shower in Axe. It's just
Yeah.
disgusting. And we're a cleaning company, so we
Yeah.
don't do that. When he goes to the front door, he's got his tool bag, he has his special mat, and he has a little gift. And he goes up and we knock on the door. We don't ring the bell because salespeople ring bells, friends knock. We take a couple of steps back. We wait for the customer to answer the door and we say, "Hi, my name's Josh. I'm here to create your healthy home. May I come in?" We don't just barge in, we ask. And then on our way in, we do an exaggeration of wiping our feet on the mat. And then we, again, over exaggerating, but put little booties on our clean shoes. And then we go into the home. While we're going into the home, we're presenting the customer with a gift. Now, when was the last time you had a home service professional, electrician, HVAC guy, whatever, show up to your house and give you a gift before they did any work? And I'm not talking like a tchotchke, like a chip clip or a pen or something. I'm talking nice custom blue box. It's not a huge gift, but inside of it is a bottle of our spot remover, a little bag of Entenmann's cookies, and a note from me saying thanks for allowing us into your home. That is the script for getting from the street into the home. We haven't even done any cleaning yet. Now, it goes quickly. Probably takes me longer to explain it than it is to actually do it. Um,
Yeah.
but giving that gift starts a process called reciprocity. I give something to you, you feel compelled to give something back to me. So not only does that gift get people to say, "Oh my God, you'll never guess what happened when the carpet cleaners came today. They gave me a gift." So now you've got your word of mouth, your tellable, but it starts reciprocity. And when we implemented the gift, we saw a 26% increase in our mid-tier package, which equated to about $65,000 in additional sales every year, just by presenting this little $4 gift. So
That's up
systems, and that system has outlasted every employee I've had.
for sure. I absolutely love that because you. I lost count. I think you created 10 different elements along that path that created little surprise and delight moments that are completely unexpected from people. You leverage the psychology. I love what you said. Friends knock, salespeople ring. I mean, these are insights, sort of universal human insights in most, not true everywhere, but for the most part, that is a very workable thing. It's
Mhm.
also what I love it is like, oh, I hear the knock. Oh, John is here from the cleaning company or whoever it might be. It's also a signal of preparing for what's coming. And probably this whole, I'm going through this from a consumer psychology standpoint. Absolutely brilliant. Absolutely love that. Um, Question before we move on to the next section. What does Disney measure that most companies never track?
Well, they certainly track. Um, it's not so much guest satisfaction as it is guest excellence. So they don't post satisfaction scores because satisfied people leave businesses all the time. You've got to be excellence. And Disney also measures consistency, because consistency builds trust. So they
Right.
measure the systems that are in place. They have people, I make fun of it. Disney has, are experts at extracting money from your wallet and leaving you feel happy about it and wanting to do it again and again. Now, what they do though is they have teams of people that go in and measure how long does it take for somebody to buy something? And they'll look in what I call the sales or service prevention department. Quick example on that was, they had a trouble with selling merchandise in the parks during the day because nobody wanted to schlep that stuff all around. They said, we'll buy it on the way out. So they had a lot of empty stores. So they said, well, why don't we offer to ship it back to their room for them? So now you can go and you can buy stuff and ship it back to your room. Then the problem came in. Well, now we got all this crap. We have no way of getting it home on the airplane, we got to buy some more luggage. So Disney came up with the app that you can stand there and hit a button, doink, and that little Minnie Mouse tea set is magically delivered to your home. It probably even beats you home. The other thing that they noticed was that um, customers thought about the purchase while they were going for their wallet and pulling out their credit card. So dad, his little cherub wants the 96-piece Minnie Mouse tea set. And so he goes to reach for his credit card. And in the time he's reaching for his credit card, he has time to rethink this purchase and says, no, we don't need this. So Disney had people watching this. One of the things that they came up with was the Magic Band, which
Okay.
becomes your wallet and your room key and your park ticket. So again, eliminating that customer service prevention department. And now all you got to do is plunk the T set up there and go with your wrist, doink, put your code in, and you bought it. So you've got to also measure those friction points. Where are they and how do you get rid of them?
Yeah, I love those are great examples because like you said, satisfied customers, they leave all the time and they don't leave because of some giant failure because they're generally satisfied, but they'll leave because there's 100 little small points of agony, whatever it might be. And I love the focus on optimization or obsessing on, okay, why just, yes, this is about sales. Certainly, they need to make sales because you need to feed the experience and pay people properly to deliver that experience. But it is also about less friction in those moments where you're satisfying that customer in that
Right.
moment. And I think that just and you're over delivering on the experience once it gets home. To your point, you said it'll probably be home before they are, right? And that's true. I actually, funny enough, I still have our bracelets. We took a road a little while back. I still have all our bracelets down. I know they don't work, but you said, oh, there's a little memento. And I thought about this. I'm like, this is just literally just banging your wrist wherever. And it's like,
Yeah.
it's ching, just ching. And yeah, sure, it's Disney. You just don't think about a couple bucks here and there. You just are allowed to focus on the experience and the fun of the moment rather than an extra $100 or $200 here. Because at the end of the day, you're going to forget that, but you're going to remember how you feel, right? Or sort of, hey, we had a really great. I don't know how much I spent on that trip. I have no clue, but I kept it. I kept the thing that caused me to spend more money,
Yeah.
but I'm happy, right? We'd go back. So
It's funny. The guests now, they actually put a warning on the box that says not for internal use on the bracelet because people were taking the bracelet apart and having it inserted into their skin so that they didn't even have to wear the bracelet. This is how fanatical Disney guests are about that brand. They're willing to open up their body and shove a microchip in it so that they don't have to wear the band and they can just walk around with their bare arm and doink, doink, doink and go buy stuff. That is a brand recognition. That is people that will do anything, including mutilating their body for the brand. That's what we should all
that
be aspiring to.
I did not know that. I know one of my cousins, a huge Mickey Mouse fan. I can almost see her doing that. I didn't know actually people do that. That
Yeah.
that is wild. It's sort of well, that's even more so than 'cause a wonderful brand is Harley Davidson, right? People
Okay.
tattoo their whole bodies with the brand. It's a great brand, great product, and struggled as of late, but huge storied piece. And yeah, Disney's probably one of the best in the world at that, to say the least. Um, so one of the things I want to kind of get into is sort of trust and how you get trust without burning out leaders. And oftentimes, I'm going to transition based on what you said. He's like the goal is not necessarily more effort per se and a specific. Well, sell harder. It's about creating fewer points of failure, and that's what this whole concept is. So I love that. How do you think CEOs should scale trust without personal involvement, without trying to, you have any thoughts on that or experience around that?
Well, I mean, the CEO sets the tone. And so I don't think they should abdicate responsibility for how the business culture and the business atmosphere is, um, because, like I said, they're the ones in charge, and trust can be lost. I mean,
Yeah.
one little thing and it's wiped out. And then it takes, 10, 12, 15 interactions before that trust is regained, but is never regained to 100%. It's regained to 98%. And then if something else goes
Mm.
wrong, then you got to work hard to get it. And now you're at 96% trust. So it's that first mistake that kills you, which is why having a culture of open communication, and by that, and I'm not a woo-woo communication kind of guy, but what I mean by that is employees should be able to say anything at any time to their bosses about what's going on at work. Because usually the employees have the best ideas because they do the job day in and day out. They should be the ones reporting to the higher ups that, hey, when we do this, customers kind of wince or they shake or they don't like it. Okay, great. How do we replace it? I had a dentist who was notoriously late. Okay. I mean, all the time. So people would come in, they'd say, yeah, Dr. Smith is, he's running 30 minutes late. Have a seat. We'll get to you when we get to you. And over time, obviously, the trust in that doctor, just from tardiness, was wearing out. So we had an easy fix to it. We had the front desk person, instead of greeting them like that, saying, yep, doctor's late, go wait, we now greet them with, hey, we always know that Dr. Smith is running late, but as a team here, we value your time. Here is a gift certificate or a gift card to go get some coffee and Danish on us after the cleaning. We really apologize for that. That's a completely different way of building trust based off of somebody doing something wrong. And it also corrected his behavior because when we sat down on his first P&L meeting after 30 days of doing this, he's asking, what is this $3,000 in promotions? And we said, well, take that, divide it by 5, and that's how many times you were late in the last month.
Yeah.
Never late again. Never late again.
Yeah.
So
it adds up. Adds up quickly.
yeah. But so, I mean, that was trust with the employees and trust with his patients. So, like I said, it can be eroded very quickly and it's almost near impossible to get it back completely.
Yeah, that's true. And one of the rules I have with my team, I have what I call the 180 rule, and you touched on it, where I do believe it's incumbent upon leaders to create an environment where people can feel seen and heard, but again, not in a woo-woo way, but in, hey, they're in the front line of that role. So
Yeah.
I have, as leaders, we're only as good as the decision that we have, of the data that we have. If we have blind spots and no one tells us, we're going to come up with stories to fill in that piece with what we think might be true. So what I always tell my team is I have what's called the 180 rule. 100% input. I need to know the truth. Whether you think I'll like it or not, it's completely irrelevant. 80% of the times you will agree with the ultimate decision that I have coming out. 20% of the times you will not agree or not understand or not say, well, how come they didn't listen to me? Well, if I have 100% input, then you have the right data set, you can now make the right decision. And so by allowing people to empower, that's one of those instances where it was 80%, because otherwise nobody says anything. And you ultimately have in the business, there's nothing more dangerous than a leaky business, right?
Oh, yeah.
Too many, the rate of business failure is A, way too high. B, I think in the vast majority of instances, and that's part of the role I'm doing this podcast, is it's savable. And it's savable not by massive redesign, but by doing small little things here and there, a little thank you note, examining what your customer experience is, examining return levels or whatever it might be, reviews, the whole 9 yards. I mean, business is not easy, but it's simple, right? You're dealing with human psychology, do the simple things, do a lot of simple things right towards the outcome that you want. Well, you got something viable that's fun, and it's not so chaotic on oneself, right? Like you said, hey, a leaky truck on a driveway, now you might have to pay for a repaving, depending on how irate the customer might be.
Yeah.
You don't know what you're dealing with, right? So do that to an 8,000-foot mansion with a massive driveway, that's not going to go over very well. So
No.
I think I can ask, is there sort of a tip before we end? Is there anything you see that founders should and leaders should stop doing as companies grow? Like, what is the, or some of the patterns that you have seen that, leaders really got to stop these two or three things that you've seen through your experience?
Well, I think stop being or stop trying to be 100% in control of everything. And as you said,
Big one.
delegate and give authority to your employees to do the best work that they can do, and have some trust in that they will do that. You give them parameters, so they give them guardrails so that, as long as you're within the guardrails with your decision, you're fine. I mean, if you think of Ritz-Carlton, every employee at Ritz-Carlton is given $2,000 in order to fix or help any guest situation. No questions asked. Now, I mean, they'll probably do a little debrief and say, did you really need to spend $1,500 because the guy's coffee was cold? But, did you spend 15 to get him a fresh cup of coffee and maybe a little extra something, something? That's having trust in your employees, but they also have a very strong culture. And I think that they also abdicate a lot of the guest experience or the customer experience to the customer service department, which it is not. People never call customer service department for service. They call to complain. It should be
True.
the customer complaint department, not the service department. And usually you don't even get service when you call them because they pass you around, on the
So true.
transferring all the different phones. So really keeping your pulse on or finger on the pulse of what are your customers experiencing. Go out and secret shop your business. That's one of the huge things I recommend is to get great feedback is have somebody pretend to be a guest or be a guest and go through your entire process and tell you the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so that you can see where the processes and systems are falling apart, where is it breaking, and then you can fix it.
Yeah, those are great tips, and I think I love that you share that and the continued focus on the customer. And yeah, don't abdicate certain things. Take ownership of the customer. I mean, they're the ones that are feeding the business. They are the reasons why we are leading the businesses we are, or started the companies that we do, because we love servicing or creating some impact in some shape, way, or form. I also think for the audience to take away is like, if you have a business, it's just evergreen. Like you have to constantly look, it's constantly evolving. You might have multiple problems at once. You may not necessarily be able to fix it over the course of a weekend. But I think for me, the takeaway is having a systematic approach to optimizing, as you said earlier, plussing. How am I fixing and plussing my business? And then just being sort of in love with your customer, right? If they're happy, you're happy.
Right.
And you're right. And you said before the sales prevention department, because it's pretty funny. Some departments are like that sometimes, and they're not supposed to be, right? So,
Right.
if you're a leader and you find people saying that, it's like, well, hang on, that's not a people issue. That's a system design issue with how you're setting things up, and or you're not creating the right experiences because you can't have detractors because those, they call it quiet quitting. Customers will do that all the time. And even if you scored a 7, in the NPS score, 7 or 8, they might say, that's pretty good. In school, an 8 out of 10 is pretty good. Well, business has got to be a 9 or a 10.
Mm.
If not, they're at risk of being romanced away. And so 8's not good enough. It
Right.
really does need to be, it really does need to be 9. So thank you for sharing your wisdom and your experience along the way. Some great
My
examples
pleasure.
with dentists and home hardware situations. And really appreciate your time, and looking forward to working with you.
Great. Thanks, David. I appreciate it.